Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of AKP Sports Talk. As always, I'm Ari here with Korea. We had what turned out to be a pretty exciting Monday night game that came down to the end in overtime last night. Unfortunately, the injury to Trevor Lawrence, it was announced as a high ankle sprain, so he's going to be out probably several weeks. So that's unfortunate for them. But yeah, it was exciting. It was a 10-point spread for Jacksonville, so it was not expected to be a close game. But Jake Browning, and the way the system works under Zach Taylor, it was a lot of kind of short passes, get the ball out quick, and it definitely worked for them. He had the one long pass to Jamar Chase for the touchdown, that cashier play that we'll go over in the recap with his receiving yards. But we'll get right into our recap from yesterday. 2-in-1 day for you, Korea. What did you take away from your best bets yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, first going to Jamar Chase, that was sweat free. I mean, I already knew that was too low for a reason. That line was at 55.5, and I kind of figured it was too low for a reason. Obviously, one play cashed it for us, but besides that, it was going to be pretty sweat free anyway. He was kind of the main receiver that Jake Browning was targeting all night. Like Ari said, short dumbtown passes, and whether it was Joe Mixon over the middle or on slant routes with Jamar Chase, he was throwing the ball to Jamar Chase almost all the time. So that would have hit anyway. And then speaking of Jake Browning, obviously 32.5, it was looking very sweaty, but I will say them going into overtime was the thing that we needed for this play to hit. Obviously, if you did see on Twitter, I did advise people to stay away from this because that line did go up to 33. But if you did anyway, that line finished at 37. He threw 37 times, so it was very sweat free no matter what. And then I also had another play of Trevor Lawrence over 1.5 passing touchdowns, and that was pretty sweat free as well. That finished at minus 130. I gave that as a play just because I saw that line go up for Browning, and I got a little concerned. So I'll take that as another win as well. I gave that out as an added play, and then. Iowa. Look, this is the thing I hate with college basketball, and it's depending on these offensive-minded teams to go and at least look decent in the spot. And it was all Purdue, all first half, all game. Honestly, I mean, Iowa could not shoot the ball. It's hard to depend on these teams that primarily shoot the ball, and that's how they get wins, is through their offense instead of their defense. And, for them to ask them to cover a 7.5 point spread, you're asking them to pretty much, be as consistent, in terms of their shooting as they can be. And, I thought it was a contrarian play just because I thought, Purdue coming off of a bad loss, they may be coming back home. I thought they were going to get out to a slower start and then finish strong. But, I guess they just got out to a lead early and just didn't really have to do anything but coast throughout the rest of the game. So, I'll take a 3-in-1 day as well as for the Trevor Lawrence play. Iowa, thanks for not showing up in terms of your first half offense, but Jake Browning and Jamar Chase, Jamar Chase was so sweat free, and then Jake Browning, that was obviously, like I said, a little sweaty as we got later into that game, but like I said, forcing overtime was the key for us to get that over 32.5, make sure it's a little safer. So I like that as well. So 3-in-1 day for me, 3-0 on the money line, 3-0. For my Monday Night Football picks, and then obviously 0-1 for college basketball. Ari, let's recap yours. How did you do yesterday?
Yeah, I was 2-0 yesterday. The Jaguars wasn't as sweaty of the two. They got the turnover on downs in the first possession and then scored for 7 early points. By the time I took it, it ended up being 13.5 at plus 102, I think it was. So that was a little bit more, worrisome than 12.5, but it hit, and then I think the middle of the second quarter was when the Jaguars scored their second touchdown to get to 14. So it hit, what did you got, 12.5 or 13.5, obviously. And then the Celtics game was a lot more sweaty in the first quarter. It started off 15-9 Indiana about like 5 minutes in, which obviously isn't a good start for just the first quarter. And then the Celtics started slowly creeping their way back in, tie game. They tied it. They took a 2-point lead with like 2.5 minutes left. And then Matherin hits a 3 with 2:14 left. Next possession, Drew Holiday hits a 3 to put them at 24-22 with 1:53 left in the quarter. And that wound up being the entire score. And the last 1:53 after that was break after break after break. I think it was like a missed layup, or I mean, it was contested. But it was like a missed layup by Mathurin with like a second left that would have had it be tied, but he missed it, and they got back around a couple of times, and the Celtics held on to win by exactly 2 points in the first quarter. So, I mean, I was expecting this game actually went under. I thought it was going to be a lot more higher scoring. I thought the Celtics would score more than 24. In the first quarter, I talked about their defense being good in the first quarter, so I wasn't surprised about Indiana scoring 22. But I thought Boston scored 25 to 30 plus themselves, but they didn't. It was a rough start, but obviously a sweaty win is the same as a win that you cruise to. So obviously I'll take it.
Yeah, like I already said, we'll take those. As I already said, Celtics first quarter spread at -1.5. Really got it on the hook there. All right, talk about a big sweat right there, getting it on the hook, and then as already mentioned, Jags first half team total. As already mentioned, he had it at 12.5, and then went up to 13.5. So that definitely was a little bit of a sweat right there, but we'll take it. We will gladly take another win. And as already mentioned, he even got it at 13.5. So for him to get it at plus money and, be, kind of the decision maker, obviously, because I think it was tied at half at 14 apiece. So, obviously, if you got it at 13.5, obviously a little bit sweaty, but, 2 touchdowns did it for you. And that's what they did. And then obviously, once again, with the Celtics first quarter spread at -1.5, right on the hook at pretty much winning that first quarter by that, Drew Holiday 3, pretty much cementing the first quarter win for you at -1.5. So 2-0 day, obviously a little sweaty, but like guys already said, we'll gladly take those days. A win's a win, and we will gladly push on and move on. But now we're going to move on to today. Obviously, big college basketball day in the works, Tuesday, December 5th. And here are my 3 best bets going on tonight. We're going to go start in one of my favorite games of the night. And if you haven't heard of this team, this is not the great famous thing in Arizona that you can oversee throughout the past. This is an actual team. Yeah, we're taking Grand Canyon. We're going to take them at +2.5, and we're going to sprinkle on the money line at +2.5 right now. Look, that line was at 3.5. That line went down to 2.5. I got it at 3.5, and this is a great spot for Grand Canyon. They play at home. That's where you want to play. They're one of the better defensive teams. You want to be better, you got to play defense. And look, San Diego State, you talk about 2 defensive teams, right? I just don't like San Diego State in the spot. They depend so much on Jaden Ledee. He is a talent. They depend too much on him. And I feel, for this Grand Canyon team, all the Antelopes really need to do is just stop Jaden Ledee. And I feel like this is going to be a long day for this San Diego State team. I feel Grand Canyon is going to be one of the best teams out of the WAC. They were, believe that they were a tournament team last year, if not the year before. Out of the WAC as well. They have a 6-1 record. Like I said, one of the better defensive teams. They beat you inside. I mean, they average about 40 rebounds a game. That's top. I mean, for a group of 5 or not a top school, it's pretty good. But you're a top 100 school in the nation. And then in terms of blocks per game, they average about 6. So that's top 25. This Grand Canyon team is defensive. Now, obviously, on the other side, I hate fading the San Diego State team, but their offense is so anemic. But it's because of the fact that they are one of the best defensive teams in the nation. And, they had a barely scratch-out win, against Washington. They had a barely scratch-out a win against Cal. That didn't really look pretty. And, now they got to go on the spot at Grand Canyon in a true road environment. I don't like it. And, like I said, this is our system. If that line is below 5, 6 or 5, and, it's a ranked opponent going to an unranked opponent, and you see that line going the other direction, it's just because of the home court advantage. I call this a home court advantage system, and I'm taking Grand Canyon +2.5. The last time we saw this, Wisconsin versus Marquette just the other weekend, Wisconsin was about a 3.5 point underdog. That line went down to 2.5, and look who won the game. Exactly. So that's why I'm also taking Grand Canyon to sprinkle on the money line. I think they can get it done at home. They have one of the better defenses in the WAC and in the country. So give me Grand Canyon at +2.5. That's -110. I got it at +3.5 last night. And then I'm also taking them on the money line as well. I think that's at +120 right now. I think that's a great look, a system play. And I think this San Diego State offense is going to have a hard time traveling into. And honestly, I don't know if you've seen, but Grand Canyon basketball games are definitely something. So I'm definitely going to be tuning into that game. The fans are electric. So that I'm talking about home court advantage. I think Grand Canyon can do it. Give me Grand Canyon tonight. Then going into the game of the night, honestly, between UConn and UNC, and I'm taking UConn at -5.5. I think that's -120. The line did move up to 6. I think this is a great spot for UConn. They get back Stephon Castle, the 5-star freshman, to pretty much complete the puzzle. Because UConn, look, they had a tough loss on the road against Kansas, but it's Kansas. I mean, and like I said, home court advantage. Obviously, that line was going in that favor throughout the game. And, this is a great bounce back spot for this UConn team. I feel like they definitely get it done at home. Even though UNC is great, I don't think that, obviously the matchup is going to be how Armando Bacot does against Donovan Clingan inside. That's going to be the matchup, and I think that's going to be one of the things as to why UConn, propels themselves in this home spot. With the return of Stephon Castle, that kind of that is the biggest reason as to why UConn is not a really, everyone's talking about, Kansas and Arizona obviously being the number 1 team in the country, but not really many people are talking about UConn just because they're not at that level yet. And I think Stephon Castle gives them that edge, to be a really competitive team, especially in your first game playing against a great program in UNC. That line is going the opposite direction. I think UNC, is not going to be able to keep up with this UConn offense, especially at home for the Huskies. So give me UConn at -5.5. I like them in this spot to get a bounce back win after they lost, on the road. And like I said, these non-conference games, especially around this time of the week, we have this week or this and next week are some of the biggest non-conference games in the country. We have UConn. We have UConn, UNC, we have FAU, Illinois. So we're going to be targeting a lot of these games. So give me UConn at -5.5. I like that spot. And then finally, my final pick today, I like Villanova just straight up on the money line at minus. I know it's juice, but at -142. That line is kind of scaring me at -2. I don't know why. Villanova is only a 2-point favorite. I think they should be a lot bigger favorite, but at the same time, I don't know how this Villanova team is going to look, especially after they can't beat a Philly school to save their life. This team doesn't know how to beat their own freaking rivalry schools in their own city. How are they going to beat K-State? Here's how. This team can play defense, and I think that's going to carry, on the road in this spot. And K-State, they've had a weird year. It's been an up and down year for that program. A lot of talent has left, and, it kind of shows. And, they've had games where you're thinking, how are they playing close to University of North Alabama? But especially at home. And, if that's how the line, they're going to give Villanova only -142. I'm saying that line should be almost -200, honestly, because I think if University of North Alabama can come into K-State and almost beat them, who says Villanova can't do that tonight and just absolutely beat the brakes off them? So I see that line going the wrong direction, but I don't think Villanova are going to lose. I just want to take them straight up on the money line at -142. I think that line is going to grow. So if it does grow, then I would take Villanova maybe -2 or 2.5, just depending on that spread. I think they do get it done, and I think they win tonight. So those are my 3 plays. I'm taking Grand Canyon at +3.5 for me. I'll take it at +2.5 because I'm taking the money line as well. I think they do get the job done in this home spot. I like UConn as well, -5.5. Like I said, a home spot for them. Their offense is going to be a lot more superior, especially with Stephon Castle back for that. And then Villanova on the money line. I think this is a great bounce back spot for them after you pretty much not even knowing how to beat a Philly school and now going to K-State, especially how this K-State team has looked all season, very up and down, not a consistent team. Well, obviously you can say the same thing about Villanova, but, when they play, basketball the way that Villanova knows how to play basketball, they're one of the scariest teams in the nation. And I think this is a great bounce back spot for them. So give me all those 3. Those are my 3 plays. I think that's a 3-0 card. It's obviously 4-0 with the Grand Canyon money line, me personally. But all right, I'll stop jibber jabbering. What are your plays for today?
Yeah, so I have 1 in the NBA, 2 in college. I'll start in the NBA. We have the in-season tournament. Of course, we saw the Pacers and Pelicans win yesterday. Today we have the Bucks, Knicks, and then the Lakers, Suns. I'm going out to LA with the Lakers. It's a 1.5 spread, so it's basically pretty close to even. Lakers at home. The Suns still don't have Beal, but they'll have Booker and Durant. Lakers are already 2-0 against the Suns this year. One only came with Durant. One came with Durant and Beal. So this will be the first time they played where it's Booker and Durant, but it's still not Beal, so it's still 2 of the 3 big three. LeBron's questionable, but he's questionable pretty much every game, so I'm assuming he's going to be playing. And I just think that, in-season tournament in LA, LeBron, Davis, I think they want to show out. I think it's going to be a close game. Like the first 2 games between these 2 teams were, within 5 or 6 points. I think it's going to be tight. Obviously the line's close for a reason, but I think that the Lakers pull through at home to advance to Vegas in the semifinals, where they'll take on the Pelicans, right? Yeah, the Pelicans. And then going to college, you talked about the FAU game. I'm going to that one. They're right now a 2-point favorite over Illinois. It's in Madison Square Garden, so it's a neutral court game. The biggest reason why I like FAU, I like them -2 as well, but I'm going to stick in them just to be safe on the money line. Illinois is off to a good start this year, 6-1, number 20 team in the country right now. But, Terrence Shannon's averaging 20 points a game, and they have nobody else averaging in double figures, whereas FAU has, I think, 4 guys in double figures. I like the balanced attack more so of FAU in this one, where you're, on a neutral court away from your home court. Illinois' defense has been a little bit better, in terms of the stats-wise this year, but FAU's also averaging almost 8 steals per game, so that kind of makes up for a little bit, giving up 10 more points per game, but you're still averaging 8 steals per game, which is pretty crazy. So I like FAU to keep kind of their momentum going and take this one over Illinois. I like the -2 as well, but I'm just taking them straight up in terms of my best bet here. And then another one, my third play that's a little bit more kind of out of the box is Queens Winthrop under 158. And kind of the play, the reason that drove me to this play is seeing Queens away from home. They're averaging almost 80 points a game on the season, but away from home, they're 0-4. And, a few of their road games this year, they scored 61 points, 52 points, 68. So, compared to at home, 83, 97. And so 74. So they're a lot better shooting team at home than away from home. The line has gone up, I think, maybe a point. So it's a little bit worrisome. Is the line moving up a tad bit, but it's not enough to, drive me off this play. I think it might be close, but it's mostly Queens lack of shooting away from their home court this year compared to at home that I like about this play. I think the line's a little bit too high for that reason. Queens Winthrop under 158, and then FAU and the Lakers on the money line.
I mean, I'm glad great minds think alike for FAU, because I literally was targeting FAU money line as well. I did see that line open up at 3.5, and then as soon as I saw that line go down to 2.5, and I was thinking, isn't this at a neutral court? Defense travels. I'm taking FAU money line. So that's also one of my, on my elongated plays of college basketball, I do have FAU straight up on the money line as well. So I do like that play. And then the Lakers, I think, obviously you mentioned, this is the in-season tournament, which means something. And, you mentioned LeBron's questionable every game, but he's going to play. Obviously, this is a winner go home game. And, obviously, the Lakers want to win something because they haven't won anything in a while. So I think this is obviously a big game for them. And obviously, you mentioned against the Suns, but Beal obviously with his questionable status, we don't know if he's going to play or not. And obviously we saw yesterday interesting results with the Pacers, and the Pacers just had that amazing story with all the guys on 2-way or 3-way contracts, and just all the stories there, and it just means more. And I feel like that's kind of the storyline. With this end season tournament, guys kind of fighting for roster spots or whatever. And, I like the home team in the spot, Lakers, at home -120, just take them at home. I think that's a great spot for them. And then, I mean, you got to talk about degenerate right there, Queens and Winthrop. I have not even watched a Queens game, but I mean, obviously Queens on the road, obviously one of the more, anemic offenses on the road. And, and offense really does matter. Obviously you mentioned, in the spot for Winthrop at home, obviously, even though they're not great defensively, I do think if you can't shoot the ball on the road, you're going to have a great day. It doesn't even matter what the score is. So I do like that total under 158, even though with that line going up a little bit, obviously, but, if if they can barely hit 70, on the road, I think that may be a little bit of a great win for you potentially. Just depends on how Winthrop does at home. If they shoot the lights out, then it may be a little bit of a sweat one for you. But I think those are great plays for you. Those are his 3 plays. Going back to mine from earlier, I have Grand Canyon plus 2.5 in on the money line in one of my favorite games of the night. UConn in the game of the night at minus 5.5, and then Villanova money line straight up at minus 142 in this spot on the road. Those are some great plays. I think that's a nice 6-0 card combined from the both of us. Once again, as we always like to say, you can find all these plays posted on our Twitter below, AKP Sports Talk. Our full card will be posted in a moment. Also, you can find this video linked in our tweet in a little bit once again. But that's going to be it for this episode. That is Ari. I'm Korea. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you guys on Wednesday.